jackass, motherfucker!
Whoa!
Never stand near a suspended load while a crane is operating. All adjustments must be fully completed before the load is put under tension, and a clearly marked restricted zone should be established around the lifting area. Remember, in lifting operations, even the smallest moment of carelessness can lead to serious consequences within seconds. At the loading area, workers were trying to place a large cylindrical roll onto a truck. When a single forklift wasn't enough, they attempted to lift it using two forklifts together. Even worse, some workers climbed onto the back of a forklift, acting like a counterweight to keep balance. As soon as the lift began, the load created excessive pressure, and the forks of one forklift suddenly snapped. Never exceed capacity limits or use people as counterweights. Dual forklift lifting should only be carried out with proper equipment and careful planning. At a workplace in India, a truck was parked on a sloped surface. While everything seemed normal, the vehicle suddenly began to move on its own. In panic, a worker tried to stop the truck with his hands, reaching toward the front, but the vehicle kept moving. Never try to stop a moving vehicle with your hands. Always engage the parking brake, use wheel chocks, and make sure the ground is secure when parking. Never inflate high-pressure tires without proper control. Always use a calibrated pressure gauge and never exceed the manufacturer's limits. Do not stand in front of the tire during inflation. If possible, perform the process inside a safety cage or from behind a protective barrier. Remember, pressure is invisible, but its impact can be devastating. Two workers were trying to cut down a large tree. As the tree began to fall, the direction suddenly changed, or the escape path became blocked. One of the workers couldn't get out of the area in time and was struck hard by the falling trunk or a branch. Fortunately, he remained conscious, and no life-threatening condition occurred. Never start cutting a tree without a clear escape route. Before cutting, carefully assess the tree's lean, plan a 45-degree escape path, and maintain constant communication within the team. A worker approaches a machine for a routine check. While everything seems normal, a connected pipe suddenly comes loose and hot water bursts out. Just a moment, but a serious hazard. Never approach pressurized or hot systems without checking them first. Inspect all connections in advance and use proper protective equipment. Remember, a small mistake can turn into a major risk within seconds. At the loading area, two workers were unloading heavy packages from the back of a truck. Everything seemed under control, but suddenly, a nearby load shifted, the balance was lost, and within seconds, one worker found himself in a dangerous position. Never stand near unsecured loads. Do not unload heavy or bulky materials without proper straps or equipment. Never use Bluetooth headphones near high-voltage electrical lines, such as those found on railway platforms. The electrical power from the lines can interact with surrounding electromagnetic fields and create a risk through the headphones. In a factory, an overhead crane goes out of control on its track. It accelerates, begins to sway, and moves toward the workers. Everyone starts running. Within seconds, the crane reaches the end of the track and falls off. Never operate a crane without clearing the working area. Track systems must be inspected regularly, and even the smallest fault should be taken seriously. Remember, once heavy equipment goes out of control, it's very difficult to stop. In a warehouse, a large industrial refrigerator was being loaded onto a truck. While positioning it at the rear gate, the unit suddenly slipped and struck one of the workers. The load settled on the ground, but the worker was injured. Never attempt to move heavy equipment manually or without proper planning. Such loads must always be handled using appropriate lifting equipment and clear coordination. Remember, once a heavy object starts to slip, it is extremely difficult to stop. While people are dining at a roadside restaurant, a red car suddenly loses control. It drags a stone block, crashes through the glass, and stops among the tables. Some people manage to escape at the last second, while others are thrown to the ground by the impact. Never drive carelessly in crowded areas with heavy pedestrian traffic, and never mix up the pedals.
Şunun makinesini de azar kameraya çekin şurayı ya. Sen al üstü makineye sen çık üstü.
At a construction site, an excavator was operating inside a deep excavation pit. There was a retaining wall holding the soil at the edge, and it appeared stable at first glance. However, as work continued, the wall suddenly began to crack. Within seconds, the wall collapsed, and the mass of soil behind it rushed into the excavation area. Soil and debris partially buried the excavator, forcing the workers to retreat quickly. Never operate machinery near excavation edges or retaining walls. At a sand processing facility, a loader truck was performing a routine loading operation. With a full bucket, the machine suddenly lost its balance. The weight of the load lifted the rear end, causing the operator to lose control. The vehicle rolled backward and struck nearby equipment, creating a dangerous situation in the work area. Never begin an operation without checking the machine's stability and ground conditions before lifting a heavy load.